Shout out to Bring Our Q, Julius, you legend. We're going to do a joint interview, yeah? Yeah, we'll do a joint interview, Julius. Thanks for the support. You're a legend. From your girls, Raven and Ellie.
Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. This past weekend, Mexico's own Erica Cruz saw herself become a two-division champion, having already been a WBA champion at featherweight. She moved down in weight very recently, challenged Mayerlin Rivas, then WBA champion, for her title, and beat her this past Saturday. She had to go through some work to do it, but she did it, and she is now one of 4 champions at the weight, 2 of which fight under the Matchroom banner. There is Erica Cruz of Mexico, and there is the United Kingdom's own Ellie Scotney.
Catford.
Ellie Scotney, who immediately after the outcome of the match was decided, expressed her interest in unifying titles with Erica Cruz. Erica Cruz, who sports a professional record of 17 wins with 2 losses, no draws, 3 knockouts, having never been knocked out in 19 professional bouts.
Not an easy out. One of the more difficult fights for any fighter, any champion, at or around these weights. What Erica lacks in form, she makes up for in durability, toughness, and one of the best all-around engines, some of the best cardio anywhere at or around these weights. She's a very awkward fighter, pressure fighter.
Ellie Scotney, comparatively, is a more cerebral fighter than Erica Cruz. More finesse than ferocity, though highly talented and highly adaptable.
Sporting a professional record of 8 wins with no losses, no draws, no recorded knockouts, not yet.
You will notice that Erica Cruz has 2 times as many fights as Ellie Scotney. She is the clearly more experienced fighter of the 2, though Ellie's been in there with some good fighters, fought some former champions.
And one reigning. She pried the IBF title away from then-champion Shernika Johnson.
Ellie Scotney's resume is best described as quality over quantity. She doesn't have a lot of fights, but what fights she does have are mostly over quality opponents, former champions in Jorgelina Guanini and Maria Cecilia Roman of Argentina, a durable and experienced pressure fighter from Spain in Mary Romero, former EBU champion, and Shernika Johnson for what was Shernika's IBF title at that time.
What is consistent with Ellie Scotney is that she always faces fighters that have more rounds in the bank and more fights overall, more fights than she does. And not only does she beat them, but she makes it look easy.
Can she do that against Erica Cruz? Erica Cruz has been in there with a few good fighters herself. Been in there with Jelena Marjanovic 2 times, beat her 2 times. Her countrywoman, Melissa Esquivel, a solid fighter. She dropped a decision to Amandia Serrano, but there's no shame in that. Amanda's one of the best. And recently, this year, she faced America's own Melissa Odessa Parker, one of the best fighters around at or around these weights. And this past Saturday, she shared the ring with then WBA champion Mayerlin Rivas, edged out a decision. Can Ellie Scotney do to Erica what she's done to everybody else so far? Erica's a very awkward pressure fighter.
Erica's a southpaw, whereas Ellie Scotney, she's an orthodox fighter.
I would give the edge in speed, mobility, to Ellie Scotney. She's got faster hands, and she's faster on her feet than Erica Cruz. I'd give Erica the edge in experience and power. I think punch for punch, she's a stronger puncher than Ellie Scotney. So Ellie, she has to work around that power. She can't go blow for blow with her the way that Amanda Serrano did, because Ellie, God bless her, she's talented, but she doesn't have Amanda Serrano's power, her firepower.
She's not a volume puncher like Amanda Serrano. Going toe-to-toe with Erica Cruz the way that Amanda did, that can't be the plan of action for Ellie.
For Ellie, it's going to be about timing and angles as opposed to firepower, sheer firepower. You will notice that Erica Cruz comes into the slight crouch, chin-tucked, leaning off to one side to bring over looping punches from the other. Wide sweeping shots that Ellie Scotney can weave under, then counter.
Ellie Scotney is faster. She throws shorter, sharper, straighter punches than Erica Cruz. Erica Cruz is mostly looping shots and hooks.
She does have power, whereas Ellie's got more speed and snap on her punches than Erica does. She's gonna have to angle that torso.
Upper body movement to keep that head off center, roll and ride the hooks that come in and bring over counters.
She shouldn't run from Erica Cruz the way that Melissa Esquivel did when she fought Erica, or the way that Mayerlin Rivas did this past weekend. Running from Erica isn't the way to go. You have to pick your battles and pick your moments and assert yourself.
Intermittent action mid-range to inside is the way to go. She shouldn't run from Erica Cruz.
Just staying on the outside of her, using the ring, moving around, and relying too much on counterpunching, that won't win her the fight. It's actually mid-range to inside where she can find the victory, using angles and pivots instead.
And it'll be a hard night at the office for Ellie Scotney, but because both these fighters, both these champions, are matchroom fighters, I expect that matchroom will look to make this fight in either the first or second quarter of next year.
What would be Ellie Scotney's biggest challenge and her most dangerous opponent to date.
It's an excellent fight, and we'll talk more about it when it's officially made.
Please, that the Ring magazine is a magazine. I don't know why media and champions and promoters give any credit to a Ring magazine belt, which only threatens the credibility of the sport. I am very upset because they just declared a few days ago that the rankings of the organizations are corrupt. And if you touch my WBC, I'm going to fight back. I don't care about the Ring magazine because they are a business. They make money. They are biased. And that is not boxing. Boxing is what you see here. The World of Boxing United to make boxing better and safer. A paper magazine awarding a belt has no meaning. Of course, fighters like it because it gives them positive news. But look at this decision, completely arbitrarily. I hope that this understand and stop media giving any value to a magazine belt.
Let's get it straight. Ring Magazine has been around a lot longer than the World Boxing Council. I don't know if most people know that. The Ring Magazine title and awarding it, that's been going on since 1922, whereas the World Boxing Council, they were established 40 or over 40 years later in 1963. So when Mauricio Suleiman claims that somehow Ring Magazine and awarding a Ring Magazine title to fighters somehow hurts the sport of boxing or its integrity.
Let me start off by saying that they've been in this sport longer than you, longer than your father, longer than your organization.
Ring Magazine and the Ring Magazine title, one of the most iconic titles, if not the most iconic title in the entire sport of boxing, and the hardest one to come by. There are many, many alphabet champions, but there are fewer, even fewer, Ring Magazine champions, because the Ring Magazine title is reserved for the best of the best. Unlike the World Boxing Council's title, and unlike a rank with them, Mauricio Suleiman claims that they're just a biased business, a business. They're in the business of making money. When last I checked,
Ring Magazine doesn't have sanctioning fees the way the World Boxing Council does. What is supposed to be a non-profit organization, not for profit. If it's not for profit, what are they doing with all the money they collect from all of those fighters in their rank standings, all of their champions, every version of them? What do they do with all that cash?
do you have any idea how much money the World Boxing Council collects? Siphons from fighters' purses throughout all these different divisions, all these different weight classes, and all these different fighters, all these different champions. Do you have any scale of how much money they're making off the backs of these fighters?
Mauricio says Ring Magazine is biased, and they're just a business, in the business of making money. But what are you making by hawking your merchandise on your website? You're even advertising a credit card of some kind on the World Boxing Council's website. Where do all the profits, where does all that money go?
When I heard what Mauricio Suleiman was saying about Ring Magazine and the Ring Magazine title, I didn't even know where to begin. Where to begin with everything that's wrong with what he's saying, what he's accusing Ring Magazine of.
He's projecting. He's got to be, because everything he was saying about Ring Magazine, the World Boxing Council, is guilty of.
It's not Ring Magazine mass-producing different versions of their title, different versions of their belt to give to every Joe Blow that can pay them a hefty sanctioning fee. It's actually the World Boxing Council. It's not Ring Magazine in a hurry to give MMA fighters just now crossing over into boxing. It's not Ring Magazine in a hurry to give them a rank, to collect sanctioning fees from them. You won't find a Francis Ngannou in Ring Magazine's rank standings, but you will find him in the World Boxing Council's rankings.
Why?
Because whenever he boxes, they want to collect sanctioning fees from him. They want to attach themselves to his fights because they know what kind of money he made in his pro debut, what kind of money he made in his last fight, and they want in on that action. Mauricio Suleiman says that somehow Ring Magazine hurts the integrity of the sport. You're the one giving a top 10 ranking to what is a novice on the premise of a fight that he lost.
I don't even know what he's going to do with that ranking since he's not returning to the sport of boxing this year, and he's supposed to be debuting in the PFL next year.
I literally can't fit all the ways that the World Boxing Council delegitimizes the sport of boxing and hurts its integrity in one segment, in just one video. We're gonna have to spread this out, because if anyone is hurting the credibility of boxing, no, it's not Ring Magazine, it's Mauricio Suleiman, it's the WBC.
But first things first, what needs to be established is long before the World Boxing Council's inception, there was the Ring Magazine. There was the Ring Magazine title. Mauricio Suleiman.
I don't actually know how he can say these things with a straight face and presume to be the authority on these matters when Ring Magazine was around before you, long before you.
You're angry that the people at Ring Magazine said you're corrupt and that you're selling rank standings? Well, they're just saying what we're all thinking.
What many of us are all saying, have been saying, for a long time now, that Mauricio Suleiman and the World Boxing Council, they're on the take, and it's very obvious.
You're the ones trying to crash everybody's party so you can siphon sanctioning fees, money from them. That's what you're doing. That's what you tried to do with Jake Paul and Tommy Fury, and that's what you're doing now with Francis Ngannou.
Watering down the sport in the process. What the hell does it really mean to achieve a top 10 ranking in the sport of boxing when you give it away so easily?
Achieving a rank with you guys doesn't mean anything. All it really means is that the right people got paid.
Ring Magazine and the Ring Magazine title is not present wherever MMA fighters and boxers are staging circus fights or fights between social media influencers. You won't find the Ring Magazine title involved in any of those bouts, but you will find Mauricio sniffing around.
Ring Magazine doesn't have an assembly line of belts the way the World Boxing Council does. Ring Magazine doesn't mass produce different versions of the same title to continue to siphon money from different fighters.
Ring Magazine doesn't do that. The World Boxing Council does, and that's the first thing I think we need to establish before we move forward. That Ring Magazine, they're not siphoning money from anyone, but the World Boxing Council, they're literally trying to siphon money from anyone and everyone, even novice boxers.
So if anybody's hurting the integrity of the sport, it's not Ring Magazine, it's the WBC.
Finally, in men's heavyweight news, Anthony Joshua on Deontay Wilder suggesting that he's suffered a loss in identity. Who the fuck is he? He's a boxer, not a psychologist. The boy has had 50 fights, and he fought Jason Gavern in his 30-something fight. I probably fought him in my 12th. We are different. My identity is strong. If they're looking for weaknesses and gaps, then they need to stop looking over here because I'm solid. What Anthony had to say about Wilder being 30-something and 0 fighting guys like Jason Gavern, I say it all the time. Deontay Wilder wasn't some Joe Blow that walked into a boxing ring off the street. He was, in fact, an Olympian. He did, in fact, medal. He won the bronze. That's why he's called the Bronze Bomber. But it took him 7 years to get to a title. It only took Anthony 3.
7 years and 33 no-hopers before Wilder was ready to fight Bermain Stiverne.
Not Vladimir Klitschko, the only unified Ring Magazine and lineal heavyweight champion at the time. No, not Vlad. That's not who he was targeting. He needed 7 years worth of bring-along fights before he was ready for Bermain Stiverne. And he was an Olympian, just like Joshua, with the difference being that Anthony didn't need as many bring-along fights and no-hopers and journeymen to pad his record. His hefty knockout percentage, his knockout ratio that you're always hearing about, is primarily comprised of 7 years worth of club fighters, journeymen, and no-hopers. When he finally stepped up to a top 10 fighter in Bermane Stiverne, the knockouts stopped. That's right. The first time he fought Bermane Stiverne, he didn't knock him out, even though he had been knocked out before.
If you would have gave Anthony the same 32, 33 stumble bums that Wilder fought for the first 7 years of his career, he'd be called the Bronze Bomber. He'd be the one with the hefty knockout percentage, because there's nobody worth talking about in the first 7 years of Wilder's career. And 7 years, that's a long time.
7 years having not faced a top 10 fighter. Anthony Joshua unified this division. He may have lost the belts to Alexander Usyk, but before that, he unified the division, picked up 3 of the 4 major titles.
Even though Deontay Wilder debuted as a professional before Anthony Joshua, he's been around longer than Anthony Joshua, and he never unified anything.
Anthony lost his 3 alphabet titles to Andy Ruiz in their first fight, but he got them back. He got them back in the rematch.
Wilder never got his belt back after he lost it. He never won it back, where Anthony already is a 2-time unified heavyweight champion. Not only has Wilder never unified a title, he never won it back.
And what's the best win on Wilder's resume? Over 40 fights. Who's the best guy that he fought? Luis Ortiz? Oh, you mean the Luis Ortiz that Andy Ruiz beat?
Andy Ruiz, who got beat by Anthony Joshua in their rematch. And who's Wilder about to fight? Wilder's about to fight Joseph Parker?
Is that the same Joseph Parker that Anthony Joshua beat years ago? Back when Joseph Parker was an unbeaten champion, took his WBO title? You're telling me that Wilder, having been in the sport longer than Anthony Joshua, he's just now getting to fighting the Joseph Parkers of the world?
Don't get me wrong, I like that fight. I am going to watch it. I am going to purchase the pay-per-view, but it says a lot that Deontay Wilder, who's several years older than Anthony and has been in the sport longer than Anthony, is just now getting around to fighting someone like this.
People have grown comfortable questioning Anthony Joshua's fortitude, and I don't know why, because he's never dodged his comeuppance like Wilder did. Wilder spent an entire year accusing Tyson Fury of cheating, so that when he finally gets him in the ring for the 3rd time, he doesn't even want to acknowledge him. He wore headphones to the press conference so he wouldn't have to hear his voice, so that the media couldn't ask him questions about the accusations he was making.
He had a lot to say to his sycophants and the content creators here on YouTube that suck him off just for access, but he was quiet as a church mouse when Fury was standing right in front of him.
Like he was last week when Anthony Joshua was sat across from him, in the same space, in the same place. Wilder was a lot more polite when the guy was in the room than how he behaves when he's not in the room. Deontay Wilder is in no position to talk about anybody.
Didn't this guy resort to using psychotropic drugs after the Tyson Fury fight to help him cope with the loss? Ayahuasca, whatever the fuck it's called?
It's America's obsession with big talkers that are not necessarily big doers. That's why they like guys like Rolly and Adrian Broner and Deontay Wilder. Absolute clowns that shrink under the hot lights, but because they can talk a bit,
they love it. Deontay Wilder better make it past Joseph Parker, because if he doesn't...
I don't want to hear about him.